What are you watching?
We are back. We got a great show for you tonight. We had a lot of fun on the monologue, tremendous time with Annie Lederman. And now this. As you all know, I love pouring Bacardi on my bitch's feet. But what I don't like is when these trick-ass hoes have big old bunions on them toes. Please, y'all better cut them bunions off, or I'm not sucking on them shits anymore. Do you know how nasty it be when you go to take a nice gulp of Bacardi rum off some fine honey's toes, but then you get a mouthful of calloused bunion? It's enough to make your stomach turn. And trust me, you don't want daddy to have an upset tummy. Because that's when no one's toes get sucked. Bacardi, live hardy. Oh. All right, it is. Okay, we will now return to the comedy portion of the show. And bring our next guest. I've been dying to meet this guy. Rolling Stone magazine called him one of the 10 comics you need to know. And I'm getting to meet him right now for the first time. You've seen him on Comedy Central, Netflix specials, and a regular on the Joe Rogan Experience as well.
Well, I've
Give it
done
up
it
for
once,
Tim Dillon. What?
Yeah, it was good. I mean, it was good.
What was it like doing Joe Rogan?
It's great. It's a great show.
Yeah.
It's a little nerve-wracking because you have it's 3 hours, and I get, my agent probably was watching very nervously, like.
Did he get to try to make you a hunter or something like that?
No, and he started talking about aliens in the beginning, and I had to move him off because he knows everything about like the Sphinx and everything, and I don't.
Yeah.
So I had to move him off that, but it was great. It was a great thing. Yeah, it was really fun.
What did he wind up getting you to talk about?
Well, we talked about a lot of things. We talked about Donald Trump wanted to make one of his buildings gold in New York City, and Joe thought that was okay, or he didn't have a problem with it. And as a New Yorker, I was like, nah, we can't have a gold building in New York. And he was like, why? Would it ruin the skyline? And I'm like, well, yes. And nothing good happens in a gold building.
Right.
Yeah. Nobody's doing cancer research in a gold building.
Right.
Gold buildings for doing blow and losing your kid's college fund. Like the gold building is, that's Jeffrey Epstein stuff. Gold building. It's not, So we got into a bunch of stuff, but it was really great. It was a lot of fun.
Right. Well, I've got here that. You created this. This is very interesting.
Yeah.
A real New York tour.
Yeah.
Please talk about that.
I was a tour guide.
You're going to do a special on that.
I was a tour guide on a double-decker bus in New York City for like 3 years. And I was the type of tour guide where I would pass the Empire State Building and I wouldn't mention it.
Yeah.
If you don't know about the Empire State Building, and I would talk about things that I was interested in, like human trafficking or political blackmail or, the eventual collapse of society and what would happen after that and cream spinach. Things that I thought mattered more, and people kind of like some people didn't like it. Some people got nervous. They were like, "We just want to see The Lion King,"
Yeah, right.
And then I was like, "Why?" And they never had an answer. Like, "Why?" You saw the movie. It's just people in costumes. It's stupid. It's stupid. So what I did was I started making money as a comic. I didn't have to do that job anymore, and the company was fine with that. I was like, I'm gonna quit. They're like,
but real quickly, I'll bet you killed the bus crowd.
Yeah, a lot of them liked it, man. A lot of them liked it. People like it because you know what? Everybody's bored on those things, and nobody cares.
They took it quickly. They knew you were a comic.
They come to New York. They want a crazy person.
Yeah.
They want a crazy person. They don't want what it is now, which is just like reasonable people with money. No, they want a psychopath. It's New York.
You got to follow the naked cowboy, man.
Yeah, you want that stuff, You want to see. I remember when I was a kid and I went into Greenwich Village. It was great. There would be transvestites beating the shit out of each other on the corner, Really, like that was the real city. It was great for a kid from Long Island. I'm like, this is fun, And they get tightened up. They're upset about it, but listen, that's what it is. That's what New York should be. So I think I harkened back to that period of time where they were like, oh, we're on this bus with a lunatic, and many people liked it.
So now you're going to do a special on it.
Well, we sold it
You're
as a
working on it.
pilot to Comedy Central, and we're still in the, we're seeing if they're going to go with it.
That's a
and
great
whatever.
idea.
I think it's a fun idea.
Yeah.
I agree with you, and
It really is.
I agree. And we'll see. We'll see. But it was a lot of fun, and we did it as a live show. Like people would buy tickets to it. And they would buy tickets and sit on the bus, and then I would just take it to New York City and then just say whatever the hell I wanted to, because it was like it wasn't my job anymore. It was just fun. So I'm gonna do it in L.A. I'm gonna try to do it in L.A. That's the goal.
Now that would be interesting.
Yeah, this is a ridiculous city.
Because first of all,
full of demons.
you say that you have to be evil in order to live in New York.
It helps. It really helps, and it helps here too.
That's what I was going to ask.
It really helps here. If you are evil, you fit in right away.
Yeah.
There's no adjustment process, You're right in. It's like a glove. You're like, oh, great. And if you're not evil, there's growing pains. You have to become evil, which I'm absolutely willing to do, and that's. But it's a process of becoming evil,
And once you become evil, you can't move anywhere else.
No.
Nor would you want to.
Once you have servants bringing you poke bowls and you're hitting them and everything, and you got a pool full of kids' blood and you're drinking it. What are you gonna go to Kansas? No.
So, where did you start doing stand-up
The
in New
show
York?
probably won't get picked up.
I think it's a great idea.
I started in New York. I started in Long Island,
Yeah.
and then I realized that the average age of a comedian on Long Island was about 78.
Oh.
It's an older crowd, and there's
Yeah.
nothing wrong with that. But I said I got to get to New York City because that's where it seems like people are really taking it seriously. And Long Island people would perform in the back of like Italian restaurants. They'd get mad if they didn't get booked. They'd be like one guy who's like, I didn't get booked at Raviolis. They went with this guy. I can't believe. And they would say crazy things. They'd be like, I don't get it. Nobody returns my calls. I was on the Rosie O'Donnell show. It's like, I gotta go. It's real dark. We were at an open mic in Long Island once, and one guy got up. I swear to God, he goes, "I am the second Rodney Dangerfield impersonator of the night." And then he said, "I just got in an accident, and I want to know if I can still do the act." And So he had this very weak voice, and he was trying to do a Rodney Dangerfield voice, and it was like, I think that after that night, I was like, I gotta go. Like, it's time to move.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I think it's a terrific idea.
Well, I appreciate it. Thank you, man.
The idea of a funny tour bus guy telling the truth to tourists.
Yes.
And just either the tourists laughing their asses off,
Or they look on in horror.
Yeah, in horror. Yeah.
It's even
see,
better.
Iowans going, you're breaking all our dreams.
Yeah. Well, a lot of people don't know what a hellscape all these places are.
Yeah.
And I have to tell them that all the people on Broadway are, one sprained ankle away from being homeless. I have to let everyone know that it's a nightmare. And, Phantom of the Opera, there's a girl named Meg who was in Phantom of the Opera. She was in it for years, and I used to, on my breaks, I would sit in the food emporium, and she would drink soup and stare at the rain. She was like a cat-like, pensive, and skittish woman. And that she did it. She made it. She was on Broadway, but she's on 8 times a week, and it's just, it grinds you up inside, and she's not the lead. She has to look at the lead every day and be like, if I was 8 inches taller, if my voice was an octave higher, and it's just, and I had to explain to them that unending hell that is going after what you want to do, like your dreams will eventually destroy you. And I had to tell them that. And I did that to theater groups. Like theater groups would come on the bus. They'd be like, I want to be on Broadway. I'm like, not only are you not going to be on Broadway, but even if you were, it would be horrible, because no one cares. That's a great thing about New York. There's so many talented people that will die alone in little apartments, and their cat will walk over their corpse, But that's what New York's about.
Yeah.
LA people are famous. People don't even know why, People are famous. People die famous here. It's much better. They just die. They'll be famous for 6 months here and then explode, They'll just melt one day.
There's no winter here.
Yeah, there's no winter. There's a winter of the soul. That lasts forever.
That's just the snow talker.
Yeah.
Well, now, you have is it a podcast called Tim Dillon is Going to Hell?
Yeah, I have a podcast called Tim Dillon's Going to Hell.
Why are you headed that direction?
Well, it's a very uplifting show, as you can tell by everything we've got. No, it's dark comedy, and I think that dark comedy now, people are afraid of it, or some people don't want it, or it gets a bad name. But we're gonna laugh about the most effed up stuff. Yeah. And that's what the show is about. And I called it Tim Dillon's Going to Hell because we're taking on, topics that, aren't necessarily funny. We're making them funny. We're not afraid to go places. And,
Well, that's
yeah,
what I
we're trying
want
to make people laugh.
That leads me to where I was really wanting to go with you.
Yeah.
Because you do with a group called the Legion of Skanks.
Yeah, I've been on that show multiple times. Yes.
Okay, now this is a group that are willing to take on any topic, no matter how politically incorrect and all this stuff.
Yes.
You will go on anything. And I like this. This is a free speech zone.
Right.
You can talk about some of the things you guys took on.
Well, those guys are great, and that podcast, it bills itself as the most offensive podcast on earth, and we just take on anything. We take on really anything, even if it's, horrible. I mean, it's, they've done bits on there that are very, I mean, I think they rated like Bill Cosby's rape victims. It's wild, but it's really funny. Once there was a girl who was dying and she wanted to go to one last prom, and we did a bit about how like her mother was just kind of like, let's move this along. Like the girl had more time than she really was. The mother was like, come on, what do you? We get it, And we just go near, because life is horrible.
Would they go into socio-political ideas, the Legion of Skanks?
I mean, listen, they'll have people on that are controversial politically, but it's a comedy show.
Yeah.
So this is comedy. And that's what people, I think, forget, is that at the end of the day, our whole job is to make people laugh. Nobody should be following us for political advice. Yeah.
Well,
I mean, we're all crazy people.
Like Sam Kinison would go places no other comic would go.
Yeah,
and I get that energy from you.
Well, that's nice. I don't know. I mean, I definitely will. I'll meet the same end as him.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'll have the success or the notoriety, but I'll go the same way. That's what excites me about comedy. What excites me about comedy is that type of stuff. There's all kinds of comedy, and people love it for all different reasons, but I like the type of comedy where you can get away with it if it's funny enough.
Yeah.
So that's the whole thing, right? So if you say it and it's not funny enough, you can't get away with it. But if it is funny enough, you have to make it so funny that people just laugh.
In other words, you have to believe it's funny.
Absolutely.
It's up to you.
Yeah, so that's the type of comedy that I like.
Yeah. Because I can feel your energy. You're sold on something being funny. You can sell it to the crowd.
There's a lot of people now that come out and they're like, so racism's wrong. And you're like, yeah, yes. And women should vote. You're like, okay. And they're like, thank you. And you're like, that doesn't seem funny. Okay. It's like, rape is evil. You're like, yes. Yes. Good bit. Good bit.
Jeffrey Epstein, naughty boy.
He's a naughty boy, I mean, it's very tough. Human trafficking is very bad, but you do get to travel. I do think that I really don't like all the complaints from these millennials. You know what I mean? Yeah. Snowflakes, you're getting a free ride. Shut up, kids.
Melania Trump once said that Melania Trump once said the first time she saw Donald, she was breathless. And
right.
I said that's because the Slovenians poked only 2 holes in the crate.
That's
what we're talking about.
That's what we're doing.
Comics like to talk about.
Yes, yeah. Yeah, it's crazy, man. That Epstein thing's bad. It's bad news. We'll see what happens. They say it's going to be the biggest scandal ever, and who knows,
Well, now, I'm picking up on your energy again, and I'm thinking you're the perfect guy to end a show. With the full crowd, of course. I don't want anybody walking out before. But you remind me a lot of Sam with your energy.
Well, a lot of people don't walk out. I don't think anyone's really walking out.
I know. I mean, before you go on. I'm saying I want you. Well, I see you closing shows because I can't see people following you.
Well, I'm sure they can. But I mean, I have a lot of energy. It's it's a frantic energy.
Yeah.
It works well on stage. It doesn't work well all over the place.
No? Where does it not work well?
These like Hollywood meetings, you go into an office with some guy, you know who's there. It's the same guy who's sitting there. He's got jeans and a polo shirt. He was the showrunner for who knows, Deal or No Deal or something.
And he's judging you a comedic genius.
Well, I wouldn't say that. But I'm not a comedic genius, and I don't think he's judging me. I just think it's like such a mismatch.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just a real mismatch. Because he just wants to make money, and I want to have fun and eventually make money, but I want to say what I want, and he's like, wait a minute, So, I mean, that's when the energy doesn't always work.
I tell young comedians, I said, the biggest surprise you're going to get is when you meet these network executives, and you find out you're twice as smart as they are.
Yeah, well, it's not a business for smart people.
No.
I mean, that's the reality.
Really, right.
Especially agents and managers, who I like mine and whatever, but they're not bright people.
But they're
real estate agents aren't bright. These are people that have social intelligence. They're not scientists or anything. They're not bright people at all.
But they're intimidated by comedians, and they want to prove that they're just as smart and just as bright as you are. So they're giving you this false energy in these meetings. You're going, amateur nights on
These
Monday.
are kids that were like, these are people that are rich kids that can't get into any other business.
Yeah.
That's really what it is. That's what a lot of these.
The nepotism is just epic.
Yeah, they just Goldman Sachs was like, no thanks, and they couldn't get into the real estate firm their uncle owned. So they were like, well, I like SNL, maybe I'll go to an after party, and they just sit in the rich, and they just sit around and give me a shrimp cocktail every now and then, and I say thank you, and then I just eat it, go into an Uber, and it's like that. That's who it is. It's just like wealthy. It's the least of the wealthy are in this business.
So would this be part of the evil in Los Angeles you described?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's evil. It's kind of more vapid and boring here than it's evil.
Yeah.
I think people would be very disappointed when they came here to see how it's just kind of boring. It's not even that. I mean, I joke around and say it's evil. I'm sure some of it is evil. But it doesn't present itself in like an interesting evil way.
Yeah.
It's like if you did the Lord of the Rings and then you got to the end of it and that Eye of Sauron that was just like some idiot eating avocado toast, being like, "We're living in fascism." And you're like, "Oh, this is it? You're the demon?" But it's like, "Oh yeah," So it's not even that interesting. It's just
Are the evil people more evil in New York?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I think that New York, they both have different strains of evil. I think the people that climb to the top of those two cities, not always, but in many cases, are on the spectrum of sociopath.
Right. Yeah.
That's the reality.
Yeah.
And I think that New York has many different kinds of industries. LA is a one-industry city, really, truly. Even if you're a doctor or a stock guy here, you're talking about your famous clients.
Right.
So, New York and D.C. are more interesting in that they have different. The power factions in those cities are different, and the people that are there are just more interesting. To me.
Now, when you're performing for a club in New York or a club in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
Okay. Is there a political or social difference between
the crowds
the two?
in LA are better looking. New York, they're a little bit smarter. Not much smarter, but a little smarter. They are.
By smarter, do you mean educated through the news or?
I think they're more cognizant of what's going on, and they seem to be just a little more well-read.
Yeah.
They're more up to date, but people here are a lot hotter.
Which is all that matters.
Yeah, I mean, it's just stereotypes are so. So I do sometimes jokes about Instagram, and I make fun of like that pink wall on Melrose, wherever, and you do that in Hollywood Improv, and they like that. They're like, why is that ridiculous? I just did that for half hour. What's your problem, you fat pig?
Don't you understand that pretty people rule?
Yeah, that's what we are. And so you have that. And New York people have an energy where sometimes they think they're smarter than everyone.
Yeah.
And you have to be like, just enjoy yourself. Just shut up.
Yeah.
Just enjoy it. Because a lot of people in New York like they think they've seen it all. They're spoiled.
Yeah.
But they're two best cities for comedy, I think, or they're up in the top 5.
Well, early in the show here in Los Angeles, I will notice that they like jokes, let's say about Trump, that Trump might like. Right down the middle of the road jokes.
Yeah.
And I have the suspicion that in New York, it would be the anti-Trump jokes that just rule, just from judging New York by the late night talk show hosts.
They do. The anti-Trump jokes do well in New York because New York has a different relationship with Trump. New York is a liberal place, obviously just like LA, but we know Trump.
Yeah.
There's a comedian, I forget who does this bit, but it's a great bit. I think it might be Christian Finnegan, but the bit is like Trump's like was a Times Square character to a lot of people that grew up in New York. He was this thing that you would see and you'd be like, this guy's kind of ridiculous, and he's a wrestling heel. He owns a bunch of bankrupt casinos. He lives in the top floor of a building. He owns a beauty pageant. He's everything that you would think of when you think of this kind of Batman villain type of guy,
Yeah.
And so the jokes about him really crush there because you got to remember there's people that know him personally there.
Yeah.
You know, there's people that know him there, that have worked with him, that, you know, I mean, so there's probably a higher percentage of people that have a direct relationship with him in New York than in Los Angeles.
It's the same way LA people laughed and knew more about the OJ situation. We laughed at OJ because we all knew OJ.
Right.
So we
That's
can
possible. Right. And you saw him and everything like that, you know? And I'm glad he's back on Twitter.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He's like the most well-adjusted guy on Twitter. Have you noticed?
Yeah,
he's playing golf. He looks great.
He said he would be watching the Democratic debates before deciding who he's going to support.
I will vote for him, to be honest. Like
a man who's not afraid to make decisions.
Yeah, right. I mean, we get it, you know.
Okay. I think we've reached the height of devilry here.
I appreciate it. Yeah.
Look, we have Tim Dillon, and we're going to have him back. He's fantastic.
I love him.
Nice meeting you, man. You're a sharp cat, man.
Thanks so much.
Don't go anywhere. We're going to get pictures. And we will be right back. Don't go anywhere. This was fun.
Thank you.